It didn't begin with a grand plan or a perfect idea. No blueprint, no certainty, just a mic and a quiet room. Just stories waiting patiently to be spoken out loud. Stories that existed long before this moment found them. Stories shaped in classrooms that still smell the same. Corridors we once rushed through without knowing why. Bus stops where time moved slowly and dreams moved fast. Exams feared, futures imagined, doubts carefully hidden. Somewhere between checking sound levels and pressing record, something deeper started forming without asking permission. Not a podcast built for perfection, but a journey built on truth. Alumni Diaries was never about flawless answers or clean paths. It was about honesty, raw, unfiltered, and sometimes unfinished. About looking back with courage and sharing forward with care. Each episode felt like opening a familiar door left slightly ajar, a place full of beginnings that once felt small and uncertain. Dreams spoken softly back then, now steady with time. These weren't stories of constant success or perfect timing. They were stories of doubt that stayed longer than planned, of wrong turns that only made sense in hindsight, of starting again when starting over felt exhausting, of waiting patiently when the world seemed to rush ahead. And maybe that's why these stories stayed with us. Because somewhere quietly you were listening. Maybe on a bus, watching the world blur past your window. Maybe late at night, switching between code and overthinking. Maybe walking alone across campus with questions unspoken. Maybe awake at 2, staring at the ceiling, searching for clarity. And still, you listened. And you carried these stories into ordinary moments. Moments that become softer, richer, and quietly hopeful. This podcast became background noise to real life, and that was its quiet magic. Because life doesn't pause for inspiration. Deadlines stack up, wins pass quickly, doubts linger longer. And we keep moving, sometimes confident, sometimes unsure. In between effort and exhaustion, celebration and silence, the space existed without pressure or expectation. A place where not knowing was allowed, where growth wasn't rushed, where failure wasn't hidden, where success wasn't glamorized, only understood. We learn that life doesn't move in straight lines. It curves, loops back, pauses, and suddenly accelerates. It slows when we crave speed and speeds when we crave time. And still, it remains beautiful in its becoming. Alumni Diaries became a small, steady light. Not a spotlight, not a promise, just a gentle glow. The kind you leave on when the room feels too quiet, when the night feels long and reassurance feels enough. A reminder that someone else has walked this road before, that they once stood exactly where you are now. So we pause, not because the story ends here, but because it deserves a moment of silence. What we heard were not just experiences, but years of learning, unlearning, and becoming. Stories shaped by late nights and quiet resilience, by doubts that slowly transformed into confidence, by innovation that began quietly long before it was seen. And maybe that's the real story that within these ordinary spaces, extraordinary becoming is already underway. Before we close this chapter, we would like to revisit a small tradition that became part of every episode, The surprise questions that invited our listeners to pause, think, and smile. From episode 1, The Traces. Your savor tea and biscuits here, your daily college department store, your savior for instant assignment lore. Who am I? And the answer was Cooperative Society Store. And to the second episode, Beyond Boundaries. I'm not a bench, but people sit with bags and books. They chat and knit. From fests to finals, I have seen it all. Echoes of GCT in every call. And yes, the answer was the ground gallery. In episode 3, Revive. Which place on campus has seen more airtime than our Wi Fi, more last minute wins than our internals, and still manages to bounce back literally every single time? And the answer is basketball court. For episode 4, Legacy, we hear helter skelter round the clock, cicadas whine as people grind, filled with fun and brimming confusion, dreamed by night and driven by day. And yes, the answer is the campus garage. And finally, episode 5, Nexus. I'm tucked away at the campus corner where creativity blooms and ideas grow warmer, with models, sketches, and a lively crowd. And the answer is the architecture department. And yes, we come to the end of the surprise question section. We were truly honored to listen to voices that carry such depth and honesty, our alumni. Ashwin P. Joby from Electronics and Communication Engineering Department, Navneet from Electrical and Electronics Engineering, Akshay Suresh from Mechanical Engineering, Shweta Papachan from Production Engineering, and Shivdat from Chemical Engineering. Each journey was different, each path unfolded in its own time, and each story carried its own rhythm. Yet together they form something deeply familiar, a shared narrative of persistence, curiosity, and purpose that reflects the spirit of our campus. Behind these conversations were voices that held space with care, and we extend a heartfelt thank you to our podcasters, Ashlyn Rose Anthony from Electronics and Communication Engineering Department, Abhinav R. and Elizabeth Saju from the Electrical and Electronics Engineering Department, for the thought, preparation, and clarity you brought to our every episode. Your presence behind the mic transformed conversations into connections and stories into experiences listeners could genuinely relate to. We would also like to acknowledge that an episode scheduled for last month could not be recorded due to unforeseen circumstances, and we thank our listeners for their patience and understanding. A special mention goes to the design, content, and media team of IEEE SB GCT for your utmost support and creativity. And to our listeners, thank you for making this space meaningful, for believing in conversations that inspire, and for being a part of a community that continues to grow through shared knowledge. As this episode gently comes to a close, let these stories stay with you, not as instructions, not as timelines, but as reminders that growth is personal, the journeys are rarely linear, and that inspiration often comes not from speaking, but from listening. This is Elizabeth signing off. Stay curious, stay connected, and until the next story, keep believing.